All right. So we are recording, we are live. I am just going to make sure this is public. So if you are joining us on Facebook, you can certainly share this to people that you feel might need to hear this message. And additionally, if you are watching on YouTube, I'm just going to say it now because I always forget at the end, like, subscribe, share, spread the word because this is your radiant evolution and we're the Radiant Evolution Collective. I'm Aurora Light and I'm here with my beautiful soul sisters and evolutionary partners, Nina Infinity and Radiant Soul Nicole. And we are going to be talking today about a really fascinating topic. We've been delving into the areas of intuition and alchemy, and now we're going to talk about how that can support our healing journey in really non-linear, sometimes nonsensical ways. So I'm super excited to delve into this juicy topic because I know we've all had really interesting experiences with our intuition guiding us to the right people, the right places, the right videos, podcasts, the right trees, the right medicines, right? To these synchronistic experiences that are taking us to that next level of healing, of expansion, of exploration in ways that don't always make logical sense. So we're going to allow ourselves to take the mind and let it be just a tool on the journey of healing instead of being the be all end all, which can sometimes happen. We can try to logic and reason our way into healing, and it doesn't get us very far because healing is a body, mind, and soul adventure. And there is an aspect of ourselves beyond space and time, beyond distortion, our multidimensional self or highest self that is guiding us to things that are better than we could even imagine or dream. And if we take those intuitive nudges that we are being guided to do, that might come through as a little voice, as a little glowing ember or light on a podcast, as something that just catches your eye, when we follow those, that's where the magic happens. Yeah, ladies, what do you think?
I'll go. Yeah, absolutely. I have just recovered from a 2 year plus concussion. And I must say, I definitely learned early on that healing isn't linear. Some days I'd feel good and I'd be like, oh, I'm good. And then the next day I was not. And I had to totally let go of that and just be with where I was and not get too focused on like improving day to day and looking at the big picture over time. And there was so many things that I wouldn't have considered on part of my journey as what I needed to do for healing. Um, like for instance, I remember having a chat with you, Aurora, and I was feeling like guilty. So give a little background on this. So I had a concussion that I had a little bit of time off work kind of shortly after it happened. The return to work was very, very gradual, and I was really unable to actually like perform my job how I was prior concussion. It was, yeah, I just wasn't able to do that. And I ended up started working one on one with you, and we manifested together and with my highest self and all that a opportunity to receive a severance that I actually like am like just running out of like this month, and that was in April of 2020 that I received that. So thank you, universe, for providing me so much abundance to be able to heal and create the conditions for healing, I think is what my intention was at that time. And as I went off work, at first it was like actually like left my career of like 15 years. It was really hard to like wind down and not be feeling like I needed to do something and actually give myself that time and space to heal. And then once I felt like I was getting kind of better and I should be doing more things now, and like what am I going to do? I don't know. I was like really stuck in the mind a little bit, and I'm like, I'm doing one-on-one coaching with you, which was super important. I needed to do that. But I felt, and I was spending time in our alchemical creation academy learning about manifestation and all these other things that I didn't feel like were relevant to my healing. And I I think I talked to you about that because all these like guilty feelings and like I should be doing these other things. My mind's telling me I should spend more time on my physio and all these other like practical things. And you're like, well, what if? So I don't remember if this dropped in for me or if you shared it, but regardless, it's like, what if this actually is what you need to be doing right now? Like, this could be built. And I think I was also really concerned about what the heck I was going to do with starting a business. I'm like, what am this? So it was like all connected into that. And that was what I needed to do because it taught me so much. It changed my whole mindset, which is absolutely necessary for healing and for creating a business. I'm getting so many, like, so many tingles right now. And I never would have thought that, doing all this stuff for fun and having fun with it would actually lead to my healing. And it did. So, yay. So, thank you. Like, thank you for creating all these amazing things that have supported me so much in this journey where I can say that I am healed from a concussion that I honestly, like, even 3 months ago, didn't think that I would could say that it was like it's healed. I'm over it and through it. Like it's absolutely incredible. And that's just one of the little things. There's so many little pieces along the way of little different things. Everything's like a puzzle and I just kept following those nudges and doing what was in front of me and here I am.
I'm just taking a moment to um, first off, instead of trying to not cry, I'm like, it's okay. It's okay. It's like happy tears because as like a dear friend of mine, watching you suffer and watching you go through all of not only the physical pain, but like the mental anguish that you were in and like the spinning and the what if and the worry and the anxiety, it's makes my heart feel so happy to know that I was able to support you through that because I was able to see your future and know that you could be healed, and I was able to hold that space for you. I mean, Nina, did was there ever a doubt in your mind that she would be able to heal from her concussion? No, we could feel that. We could hold that outcome for you while you were moving through this, and it's just amazing. And I really do remember that. And it was really about when you actually believed that maybe you weren't wasting your time with all of this spiritual stuff. And I was like, what if your soul journeys, your meditations, your connection with your highest self is actually the key? Right. And you were like, really? Could it be? Because that's not what my mind is telling me. My mind is telling me to go through the logical processes and all of the eye exercises and all of this stuff. And then I remember it did not take you very long at all to suddenly be like going on meditations and soul journeys and connecting with all of these different aspects of self and dropping in healing codes and doing this and doing that. As soon as you flip that switch into the possibility of being able to use your access to the spiritual realm to support your healing, you were like skyrocketing up there. That was just the best to witness. And now here you are. And I should tell people that are watching is that, yes, as her friend, I certainly wanted her to heal quickly, but it was also not completely altruistic because for many years, Nicole and I have known that we have work to do together. We had just started venturing into that, I think, shortly after you gave yourself permission to fully go into it. And it's led to so many things already, and then all of the retreats and all of the other programs that are going to be birthed from our collaborations. So I was very motivated with only a little bit of attachment to support you because I was like, we got stuff to do, friend. Same thing with you, Nina, on your journeys towards healing. So I'm like, we have things to co-create. So let's magically make it happen. And we've all been on these amazing healing journeys over the last 5 years, especially. And it's just been this really cool weaving together of our medicines and of our support and everything like that. So another thing is, please don't ever try to do your healing journey totally alone, right? We have codes for each other. We have support for each other.
Yeah, I just to weigh in on that, there's a plane flying above head, so you might hear it. But yeah, what's coming through for me to share is just that how, yeah, a lot of the time, the intuition, it doesn't make sense. The little nudges, we might question why we're being guided to do a certain thing or travel to a certain place, as it's been for me. And then I can look back and I can see how so many things have woven together, and I can look like back to the past and see how things have lined up. Like we were talking about on last week's chat, hindsight, we can oftentimes get so much clarity, and then looking back and seeing how things have worked out can help me to then look forward and be like, okay, this is happening for me, this is aligning for my highest good. My journey took me away from some really beautiful things that I built in my life towards this time of uncertainty for a couple of years. And one thing that I remember is that when I was first stepping away from the dance world and I was really in a dark place, I all of a sudden got this download: go to Peru. And in fact, just to give a little bit more context, I was depressed for a couple months, like in bed, very sad, very grieving. And there was this really beautiful manifestation moon, a new moon. I think it was back in May. And I was like, okay, I'm going to manifest. I'm going to visualize all of these beautiful exotic places I want to travel to, because I love to travel. And so I did. I visualized these places in vivid detail, and then I surrendered it completely and I let it go. And then a couple of weeks, maybe it was a couple of days later, I was really just feeling this pain, this grief around letting all of these things go. My partner at the time, my career, all of these things. And then I was like, I just heard from my higher self, you have to let it go. And I was like, okay, I released it. I let go. Like I just surrendered. And then in that moment, go to Peru. That was the very clear message that I got. And it was so cool because a couple of days earlier I had done that visualization manifestation. And so I talked to this woman a shaman in Peru, who would be leading a sacred pilgrimage through the mountains in the Andes in about a week after that. And I talked to her. She was just landing in the mountains. And I just felt like it was a heaven yes. And I set my deposit right away so that I couldn't change my mind, because I just knew that I was supposed to go, but I had no idea what I was doing. I was terrified. And I was like, I don't know, like, why I'm flying to the mountains in Peru. I have no idea who I'm going. I didn't know any of it. I just knew I had to go. And my mom was really nervous, because she was like, she trusts me. She trusts my intuition. She encourages that, which is amazing. And also she was like, oh, she was in rough shape for the last couple of months. Like, is she going to be okay? Like, she's just worried, as a mother would. And so we went to a fire puja with a special yogi who comes to Edmonton every year to teach a yoga teacher training. And she said, like, go ask him, because he's like, intuitive. And she's like, it would help me to feel more comfortable if you can kind of see what he thinks. And so I asked him, and this is what he said. And it's always so amazing what like spiritual teachers say. It's always so simple and refined. He said, yes, you should. I said, should I go? And I explained the situation. He says, yes, it will become the new foundation of your life. And it was so fascinating, because as I look back now, 3 years later, I went to Peru. When I was in Peru, I got guided to go to Thailand. That's when I was reinfused into the breathwork scene and stepped back into being a breathwork facilitator. And then one thing led to another, and I did other facilitation trainings, and I did other travel, and I met other people. And I see all of this was weaved together just from that one go to Peru. And so I did so much inner work on that journey, as well as the many years to come after that. And then here I am now. Just very recently, over the last few months, I've been starting to, heal physically this pain, which was why I moved away from dance in the first place. So it didn't make sense. I had no idea what I was doing. I was freaked out, but it was so strong. The calling was like, yes, I have to go. This is so essential for the next steps of my journey. So that's been really exciting to, even though the last several years have been, there's been ups and downs, it's been topsy-turvy, it's been intense at times, I can look back and just be like, wow, thank you, intuition. And thank you to me for listening to that call.
That's such an amazing story. And I have never heard you tell it exactly like that. So I do remember you going to Peru and it just being this heart opening, really deep earth connection time. And it just felt so powerful for you. So I love that it was a catalyst for so many things. And there have been many times in my life where I've been called to a particular place. For example, Sedona. I went on a soul adventure about a decade ago. And it's funny because it unraveled a whole lot for me. I took a session in something called SRT, which some of you might be familiar with. It's a modality with pendulum and charts that was channeled. And it was amazing, did a bunch of karmic clearing. And then I told a friend about it, who then told his spiritual counselor, who's now his wife. But then she came, they went down, they had sessions, they thought it was so amazing. They brought that teacher up to Edmonton, and then that teacher started teaching SRT and shared it with many people here. And it actually sent some people who now I call dear friends onto their path, and it's like their career. And I had never met them before, but when we met up, in the last year or so, we were able to trace that thread back to me following my intuition a decade ago, just making these ripples out. And then it's actually, they're healers. And these beautiful people, I'm thinking of people like Elise Braithwaite and Tracy Montgomery, who I've interviewed and you've seen, and I bring into my practices, and I've worked with them in a variety of capacities and presented for them and things like that. And our lives were woven together without us knowing it, without us even knowing each other yet. It's so neat that one person following that one bump can change the trajectory of so many people. And because they're healers, it has rippled out to thousands of people now and impacted them. So when your soul says, go forth, follow that, listen to it.
This conversation is giving me all the goosebumps. How about you both and everybody watching? I'm just constantly tingling right now. It's so incredible. I think I will always be excited about the synchronicities that show up, as if it's the first time that it's ever happened, because it blows my mind how everything can be woven together and it's so perfect. And if we just follow those little breadcrumbs that our souls are leaving for us, our high self is leaving for us, we will always be led in the right direction. And at first, it's kind of hard to do that. And the more you practice and the more evidence that you get that it works out for you, it will, it just is so incredible. um, I have, I'm trying to book to do a session at an event in January. And for some reason, I keep getting a no, don't do it in January, do it in March. And it's working with a Nate where I used to work at doing a presentation. So I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna have to email them and be like, my intuition's telling me to do this in March and not January. Is that okay? Can we make a business decision? I make business decisions with my intuition all the time, but in the non, I don't know, spiritual world, I guess, I don't know what to call it. I don't know that they necessarily do, but actually I'm gonna, I take that back because I know that billionaires and leaders often do make decisions with their intuition all the time because you cannot think about so many things. So I'm just going to go with it, and maybe I'll be the one that's bringing that light and that change into an old institution, into the old 3D realm.
Yeah, that's a really great point. Sometimes your intuition is not going to be saying, go here, do this. Sometimes it's saying, don't. And you'll be like, why? That doesn't make any sense. By all logic, I should do this now. And it's not until later that you get more information and you're like, oh, that makes sense. Right? I've told lots of stories where my intuition has guided me in business. That's like, that's what I now live by and what I teach. And it is not that strange. In fact, I'm going to be giving a talk at the University of Alberta towards the end of September with Bluth Talks, Business Life in the Universe. And it's all about how your intuition is your greatest ally in business. And I mean, we're talking more specifically about healing today, but how can we separate all of this, right? It's just, that's why I love the brand that Corey Poirier has built, Business Life and the Universe, because it just wraps everything up. I don't like having to choose just one thing to talk about. So I have a chapter in a co-authored book under that same name that explains more about those synchronicities and actually tells a story of another time my intuition and my guidance led me to so many of the most amazing and pivotal things. Like you were speaking, Nina, about how Peru was this catalyst for the rest of your life. In 2007, I got this download. This is a long, long time ago when I was in my early to mid 20s. That said, go to Shambhala Music Festival. Like you've been waiting for maybe 5 or 6 years to go. This is the time, and book it for that 2008 summer. And so I found some friends who would go with me. And I kid you not, I have never been more excited about anything in my entire life. Like I worked with some of the people I was going with, and we had a countdown going for probably months. And people would go up to us and be like, how many more days until Shambhala? And we'd be like, 101. And we'd be like, oh my God. We could just feel the gravity of it, I think. At the time, we didn't know that's what it was. We just thought we were really, really, really excited about going. But it turns out when I got there, I met my husband. I met basically hula hooping at the exact same time, the two greatest loves of my life. And through that sort of those two people, I wound up moving to Edmonton. People like the hula hoops a person. Through those two beings' essences, I wound up moving to Edmonton, meeting you guys, Nina and Nicole, becoming a professional hula hooper at one point, meeting so many friends, so many family, going on a really deep healing journey because I found my soul family with my husband and our friend group at the time, who finally made me feel safe enough to start exploring all of my old childhood wounds that I had just kind of like swept under the rug. And it was the beginning of my really big deep dive into clearing out all of that old junk and becoming the person that I am today, all from the intuition just pinging like, hey, go to this music festival almost 2 decades ago.
Yeah, it's so cool to track things back and to just see the miracles that unfolded in those moments when it didn't make sense. And I think that, as we've talked about before on these chats, is just being able to like have that evidence file of like, okay, things worked out in the past when I followed this seemingly strange piece of advice from my higher self, this weird voice that's talking to me. And then we have this like lived experience that it worked out when we listened. And so moving forward, it helps to have a little bit more faith and a little bit more, and to the point where it's so much more innate. And that's done by the inner work, by clearing the trauma, by clearing the old stuff, the old beliefs. And I like to think of it, the analogy that I get is like, we put on all of these like old heavy coats from our ancestors, these pieces of clothing that don't fit us, that are like kind of weighing us down. And it's coming from a place of like they were doing the best that they could, but also it's no longer serving us. So we get to remove these heavy garments, these heavy cloaks, these heavy coats, and restrictive, sweaters that are like too tight. And then we get to be more open. We get to be more free, more liberated, so that the guidance can flow in and we can receive that we can be the clear channel through which the higher self communicates with us. And then we can move forward in life feeling more confident and at ease that things are going to line up even if we can't see in the moment, because we've experienced that kind of synchronicity and inner guidance in the past that has worked out. Mm-hmm.
You just literally described for people the process that we've all worked through, that we all teach, that we all use in our programs and the playground and different spaces of evolutionary alchemy, right? It's really funny. This discussion came up recently. Evolutionary alchemy was once called joyful alchemy, but I renamed it my signature system because not everybody finds it super joyful to go through. It can be painful. I always get excited by it though, because when I know I am in that space of ick, like there's something so beautiful waiting on the other side. So I get kind of excited, like, awesome. What is this going to shift and change in my life? But those three processes, those three steps to transform that old ick, get into alignment, connect with that highest self, and allow that intuition to flow through, and then take the aligned action through it. That is the really basic way. I mean, it sounds really simple, but it takes a lot of little steps and that openness and willingness to change, transform, let things go, and connect and do things that might not be logical. That's how you get to this space of being able to follow the nudges. And then you have the wild stories about what came through from them. So I did want to make sure that we spoke into the fact that you don't just get to that point. If you're full of trauma, of pain, if you're not in your body, if you are just this like full of grief, sorrow, vibrational emotions that really feel like they contract us and weigh us down, like you were speaking into with the jacket, it's really hard to get those messages. So we do have to start at step one. And we actually did speak more into the process of alchemy in our illumination session last week. That's something alchemy. Turning shit into gold. So if you're wanting more information about that, you can look for that one on YouTube or going back through our Facebook Lives, because it's a whole process that we could probably talk on. I've taught on it for 14 weeks, right? But when you allow yourself to do the things that you feel like you're drawn to, that's, I think, one of the easiest places to start when it comes to listening to intuition in this regard. And I'd love you ladies to kind of explain what an intuitive nudge feels like for you. You've kind of described a few of them, and they're going to be different for everybody because we have different intuitive senses and way we described it. Sometimes I feel like I'm being pulled towards something, and sometimes it feels like something is kind of like glowing, like I'm just drawn to it, even though I may not be seeing a glow with my physical eyes. It's got this energetic presence that seems important. And sometimes it's a download, or it's a voice, or it's a coincidence, a synchronicity that makes me go, should I investigate this? Because this seems really important. So how do they typically come into you, or how do you want to expand on this for people that want to follow their intuition more?
Hmm. Yeah, for me, I often get feelings because I've really honed in on that. So I've started out by like asking my body, what does yes feel like? And really paying attention to all the sensations in my body and what does no feel like. And often yes is like this expansion and it's tingly and it just whoosh feels really, really good. And it can feel really, really big or kind of big. Or else if it's more of a no, then it can feel a little bit like contracting and wanting to go like that. It can feel just more ick in my body. Sometimes I get songs as downloads, I guess, as information. And so jumping back to when that manifesting the severance package for myself, I was so nervous because was leaving a job of 15 years. I didn't know if I'd actually ever be healthy enough to work again, but I had this amazing opportunity. And in my head, I kept hearing the song, Take the Money and Run, like over and over and over again. That is very clear. So I just trusted it. Um, Sometimes I hear voices and also very clear messages like, I decided to plan the Radiant Soul Women's Retreat, which was so close to 6 years ago now. Um, I just heard the message, Nicole, you have to plan a retreat. And it was so strong. I'm like, I guess this is something I have to do. Same as Nina going to Peru. And both of you lovely ladies were such an instrumental part of that. And I have to say, as a side note, I was putting together some presentations today and using photos from the retreat. And I was like, oh God, I cannot wait to create this magic with you both again. I think, Nina, that might have been one of your first Breath of Bliss ceremonies that you offered. Yeah, that was the first one, I thought. Yeah. And oh gosh, and there was Aurora was doing a elemental manifestation workshop, I think it was. That's you had all the cards there that I'm currently redesigning, and so beautiful to see everything come full circle. So that's just a side little tangent. Yeah, if you get excited, that's a good sign that something is coming in front of you. And other ways that I get information also is kind of, I don't see as much, but I do have an energetic pull. Sometimes I'll go for walks in the forest and just be like, guide me. And I'll not think about where I'm going, but if something, I'm like, oh, that path looks interesting, let's go that way. And, in a forest where, you won't get lost in a safe way. I follow that intuition those ways. So those are some of the ways that I receive information and follow those little nudges.
I see Paulina's commenting in the comments here where she says, feels light and airy and happy and exciting, which is beautiful because you were also touching on that, Nicole, with the excitement. Yeah, for me, there's a couple of different ways that it comes through. I also resonate with what you were sharing about asking the body, what does it feel like a yes and what does it feel like for a no? And really kind of, coming into the body, into the somatic experiencing of feeling. And that's been a process for me to come out of the head and down into the body and into the heart as well. We've talked about a little bit about this in the past, but we not only have one brain in our head, we've got the head brain, but we also have a heart brain. There's neurons in the heart. There's also neurons in the gut. So we actually have 3 brains. And that's why sometimes we get like a gut feeling, and we also get like a guidance where we feel like our heart being called towards something. In fact, 90% of our serotonin is produced in the gut and it's sent up to the brain through the vagus nerve. So gut health is important, side note. But yeah, just like coming into the body and feeling what feels like a yes. And we can do this by just practicing simple things like, should I eat this or this for dinner? Should I take this way to work or that way to work, or this route or that route? And something else that I've also, there's a blue jay that just flew by my window. That was beautiful. Something that I've also learned is that with the mind versus like kind of like the mind ego kind of making those choices based on safety and survival versus like the higher self and the heart guiding us, is they'll feel different in that the mind, the ego will often be like both can give us strong messages, but the mind can be more like panicky of like, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, and almost like chaotic. And then the mind or the higher self, the heart, can guide us in a way that's like more like this very grounded, sometimes still small voice of like, this is the truth, like that, where it's just this inner knowing. And so kind of learning how to discern and differentiate the difference between the two can be helpful, because sometimes, and I know I get tripped up with this a lot, and I, especially in the past and still even now, it's this curiosity of like, is this my intuition guiding me, or is that something else? Is it fear, or is it not even mine? And asking, is this mine? Like, is that feeling that I'm feeling mine? And oftentimes we will get a yes or a no, and that in itself is the intuition when we're speaking to it. Yeah, so just attuning into and playing with, looking at it like playing, practicing, looking at it being like an easeful exploration rather than like a from the mind, from this logical, rationalizing, reasoning kind of place, allowing it to be a game. Yeah. We've been doing lots of intuition games this month in the playground, as intuition's been our theme, and that's been fun to see my intuition expand and grow and develop as I've played some of those games, and to see other people share about their experiences as they've been playing along with us as well. So seeing it as a game, seeing it as something that we're practicing. Like, we didn't just all of a sudden know how to ride a bike when we were kids. It took time to practice. It took time to practice all the things we've ever learned. I look at my beautiful little baby niece and watching her learn how to crawl, and then watching her learn how to walk. And now she's running all over the place. And then next it's going to be a bike, So all these little things that we get to learn and practice.
Mm.
And intuition.
I love that it gets to be a game and it gets to be fun. But I did want to point out, I think that children, though, actually have more innate intuition, and we are born with a lot of those senses, for the most part, pretty wide open. And then it is the giving away of our power to be the own authority of our emotions and our feelings that kind of gets in the way of us being able to trust our intuition. And we experience this in childhood, even when parents are telling us, like, you have to go to bed now. And I mean, I tell my daughter when she has to go to bed, but sometimes she's not sleepy. When I'm saying, no, you have to be sleepy now, right? That's taking away some of her own agency. So I try to phrase it more like, it's bedtime now and we need to get a good rest before tomorrow, that kind of thing, rather than like, you need to be sleepy now. How can you not be sleepy now? Telling kids what they should eat, what they should wear, telling them if they're hot or cold, telling them, no, you can't have a snack right now because you just ate. There's no way you could be hungry, starts to divorce them and go like, oh, so there's no way that my body is telling me the truth. Right. And these are just really small things. No shade to parents. I mean, I've said some of these things myself, but it's just so indoctrinated in us to decide that we have authority over another person, or that another person, teacher, system, place, whatever, has authority over us. So we get to unlearn so much to get back to that innate intuitive state that we have as children. For example, a breastfed baby won't overeat unless they've got colic or something like that, and they're trying to like soothe themselves. But they know when they're hungry, they know when they're full. And it is just, it's beautiful to be in a space now of being cognizant of that, so we can deconstruct what's happening inside of us and reclaim our own connection to our body, to our knowing, to our highest self, and to the fact that we actually know ourselves better than anybody else possibly could. And what's true for someone else doesn't have to be true for us. In fact, it's probably not, because we are our own unique beings, right? Yeah. But then we don't want to stay kids, right? We get to do the game that we did, and then we get to bring the wisdom from all of our experiences back into this space. So we get to re-access the intuition that we always had, with all the deprogramming, clearing, repatterning. And then we have the wisdom that we learned through everything else. We even know how bad it feels when we don't listen.
Feeling inspired. Should we play an intuition game right now?
Yes.
All right. So if you are watching, I have just picked an object up in my hand, and I'll make it a little bit easier and tell you it's a crystal. So you're not completely wondering what the heck I have. And so just close your eyes, or however you receive information. Check in, closing your eyes and going inwards if if that feels good for you, is usually helpful. Tuning into the color, whatever the first color that comes to your mind is, we want to trust that. Also, I'm curious if you can sense the texture of the crystal. So if you have it, I would love for you to type in what you were feeling. And also, I'd love to hear Aurora and Nina's guesses.
So at first, when you said you're picking up an object and you're going to ask us what color it was, my mind was screaming yellow. But then later, as I tuned in a little bit more, I was like, maybe it's white. And then I was also getting smooth, but then I was like, but maybe it's rough. So somewhere in between yellow and white. And I'm leaning towards rough, maybe rough white. Clear quartz. I don't know. Let's see what Aurora has to say, and then let's find out.
Practicing our telepathy live, it's super fun. So the very first thing that as soon as you pick something up, it was like purple, and then I was like, maybe it's lighter than purple. Maybe it's more of a pink, right? And I got like smooth, but not like glassy smooth. Yeah, more like something like that. We got a few people commenting.
Yeah. I see amethyst and rough cut raw, pink and rough rose quartz. All right, and so just remember this is all practice. It's if we don't get it right, that's completely okay. We can try again.
Can I share something quickly? I just want to say Sarah and Jen both put in pink and rough rose quartzy. So that's fun.
And that's what I was thinking as well, with the like, oh, maybe it's not purple, maybe it's lighter than that, like a rose quartz. So we'll see.
Real.
It's gonna be like lapis lazuli or something.
Well, it's a jade crystal and it is light green. So I would say like kind of yellowy white is probably closest for color to Nina. But a lot of people were feeling into the rose quartz, which is also kind of like, I also consider this like a heart chakra stone. Green and pink could be heart chakra. So maybe people were feeling into that. And this one is quite smooth actually. So it's super fun to practice. And if we don't get it right, that's okay. We can try again and practice some more.
Be playful about it. You know what's cool too is actually when you were like asking us what shape it might be, I got heart. It was kind of fun because, there's many little like bits and pieces that many of us picked up on, even though it wasn't exactly the oblong green smooth, details. It was like we got little bits. And yeah, it's like a refinement. So that's super fun. I love it.
Yeah, we've been playing games like this all month in the playground, which is really fun as we've been focusing on our intuition and all of the steps on how to get there, and how we can really connect in. I want to speak, like, if you're like, oh, I suck, I didn't get that. It's a lot harder to use your intuition to do something like this than it is to follow your intuitive nudges and connect with your higher self. So just because you got this not completely incorrectly, please don't write off your intuition. My intuition is always bang on for stuff that's about me, but it's less accurate when it comes to that kind of like telepathic guessing, remote viewing kind of stuff. That's a more advanced skill that we get to continue to play with and to work. And it's also easier to do this kind of exercise if we had dropped in, if we had connected to our heart space, if we had gotten into ceremony, then very often we'll wind up being in that same energy, and our telepathy is quite a bit stronger. As people that have been on soul journeys with us can attest to, sometimes someone will be speaking, but they're like narrating and they're a little behind what you're seeing. And you're like, how did you say that? Like, that's exactly what's in front of my eyes. So there are a lot of ways of playing with it, and it does help to go deeper. So if you're wanting to go deeper, that is one place you can explore. You can come and play in the playground with us. We love expanding intuitions and trust in self. We have all the tools, the vibrational alignment tools and modalities that we have used to get to a space of being able to trust our intuitions more and more, to manifest and create the beautiful things that are in our lives now, all of the opportunities, all of the collaborations, connections, soul family, business alignments, things like that. So you can check that out if you are feeling called. We'll always drop that into the show notes, and we drop that into the comments as well if you're watching on Facebook too.
On that note, can I share? In about an hour 15, I'm going to be on live inside the playground doing an intuitive movement practice. And so throughout the month, we have a theme, and we often do live practices, movement, meditation, belief repatterning, light language. And so I'm very excited tonight to share this movement practice with all of our members. And if anyone wants to join, come and play with us. I'm very excited to share.
I love that you reminded us of that intuitive movement. I think that's another space where we all cut our teeth on really being able to feel more comfortable in our bodies and listening to our bodies, working in ecstatic dance, conscious dance. We've each learned how to facilitate ecstatic dance, conscious dance, where you're really dropping in and moving in a way that your body is in alignment, body, mind, and soul, instead of in that like choreographed way that people often think of when they're thinking of dance, right? Like follow this 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, 6, 7, 8 really steps. So that plus the flow arts background, where we had to learn how to really drop in and connect with the body. And the body is such a haven for your intuition. So just be aware that anytime you're doing anything that is dropping you into your physical form and you're really present, you're in flow state, you're really listening to the sensations of your body, you are expanding your intuition. Is there anything else you wanted to share, Nicole, before we wrap up here?
So you mentioned before about we all know what happens if we don't follow our intuition. I just want to tell you how I got the concussion in the first place. Because that's related. So, going back, life had been pretty hard, and I was tired and burnt out from my old job and young child and husband with mental health issues and all these things. And I was like, oh, wow, my body really needs, like, I'm not doing so well. I came up with my word for the year. It came through intuitively, which was soften for the upcoming year. And I was in a super aligned state. It was very intuitive when I received that, but I didn't stay in that state of alignment after the solstice period. The winter solstice ended, and I went back to work and just back into my busy life. And I wasn't, doing these daily practices like we do in the playground and that I do all the time now. I wasn't doing that kind of stuff. So I wasn't staying in alignment, and I wasn't really doing anything actively to soften. And then I got really sick for like 3 weeks, and I still went to work and like tried to push through it and all this stuff. And then the day that I got better, that's when I hit my head because I was not taking that wasn't taking that aligned action. I wasn't following the intuition. It wasn't even gentle nudges. It was like pretty big nudges of like, okay, dude, you need to slow down. You're not on the right path right now. And yeah, so I mean, as much as it sucked to have the concussion for the past couple of years, I have learned so much. I am in an unimaginable place right now than where I thought that I could have been. Like, I could have never imagined. And it was scary. Like, I had a pretty high paying job and benefits and lots, like 6 weeks of vacation and like all the things. So it would have been really hard to just leave all of that on my own. I was definitely needed a little gentle nudge beside the head. So, yeah, I just wanted to end with that because it is scary when you're not following that intuition. Or it's scary. The mind can be scared, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I was scared. I didn't want to make those big changes, and now I've got so much more evidence that following those little breadcrumbs that high self is leaving me all the time will lead to so much better. And, you know, all that work that we did in our one-on-one and stuff like that, that was me doing the transformation piece, doing all of we did all of the whole series, the whole system of Joyce Park evolutionary alchemy, but I had so much to transform before I could get here. And didn't make sense. It wasn't linear. It wasn't like the steps that I thought that I would need to do, but I just did the next thing in front of me, and here I am.
May I share with them the message that your heart gave me as well? So it was really interesting. There was a point shortly before you hit your head where I was giving Nicole Reiki, and I just got an intuitive message for her, because sometimes if we're not listening, the intuition will be like, hey, psst, can you tell this person? Can you tell this person they're not listening to this? And basically the only message that I got was, your heart has something really important to tell you and you're not listening. And you were open to that, but you were like, I haven't heard anything. I don't feel like I'm not listening to my heart, right? Like it was just below the radar completely. And then, yeah, after that aspect, there's even more that we're not going into with the story, but her heart had a lot to tell her. Her heart had so much to say. And now you opened up that channel to your heart. Nicole has given us beautiful heart activations and everything that you can experience if you go into some of our old videos as well, where she'll just use her heart and blow it wide open and just shine this love at us. And it's like this wave that comes over. So her heart didn't just have things to say. It was like, I have work to do. So listen up.
And it's like, oh, what? My heart's speaking right now. It's just sending like not huge pulsations of love, but just little ones. It just turns on all by itself. And it's maybe, you know, it just, when it's the space is there and the channel is open, it just wants to emit this high love frequency.
Nina, do you have any?
I was just going to say that I'm so glad that you're coming to this kind of like point in your journey where you can look back at all that you've experienced and see that weaves together, and see that those nudges were like the way that everything manifested with the concussion is that those were nudges that were guiding you towards where you are now, and just seeing like everything weave together. And so excited and so grateful when to just be able to witness that in you and your journey and where you've come to now.
Yeah, when we're not fully listening, then the universe will shove us into the direction we need to go. I mean, Nina, with your physical pain in your shoulders and your elbow, and Nicole with your concussion, for me it was spraining my ankle, actually breaking my ankle about 10 years ago, and that sent me onto the path of becoming a dance facilitator, which I had no idea that's what I needed to do with my life. But when I was unable to dance because of the break, I missed it so much. I was like, this is killing me more than anything. Maybe I need to actually devote my life to this, right? It's sometimes we need that, the pain, the injuries, the accidents to bring us greater clarity. It gets to be a catalyst that we could choose to then go into the like, everything sucks energy, or we could go, okay, what is this teaching me? What is this for? What gift or what lesson is here? And if you have enough practice or enough, just as you get older and you have that hindsight of like, man, every time something like that happened, it was teaching me, then it can give us this resilience and ability to seek those answers and those lessons when we're in it. So now when I'm injured, if pain flares up, if something's not going well, it's like, okay, What's the lesson here? What is this showing me? I am so open to learning it. And I ask the universe for as much grace and ease in the learning process as possible. And I find when we're asking, okay, what's here, then it doesn't have to like slam us in the face as hard. So listen to those intuitive nudges, friends. It is a really, I think, probably the most powerful thing that we can do. And I always like to invite everyone to just feel into, imagine or dream of a world where everybody was doing that. What would that look like if people were actually following their heart, following their intuition, following their highest guidance instead of hiding behind that? That doesn't make sense. Why should I do that? That's not logical, right? That doesn't seem safe. All of those things. There's brilliance and magic on the other side of the fear that we have. So this is the last thing that I wanted to tap into. Everyone was saying, my intuition feels expansive and light and exciting. And often it does. But then sometimes when you're getting a message that is really inconvenient, really big, and is going to change the trajectory of your life, it's oftentimes terrifying. Because the fear kicks in immediately after you get that message. You'll be like, whoa, that's so cool. Oh my God, what? I have to do what? And it can feel too big. So just because it's scary doesn't mean it's not your intuition talking. In fact, if you're really afraid of it, if it's bringing that fear up, that's actually probably a sign that it is what you need to go through to get to the other side, to that magical place. And there's fun distinctions that you can make, whether it's like ego fear stuff talking, or if it's just the fear of expanding and changing and shifting so much to step onto your path. So yeah, I'm sure we'll jam about intuition a whole lot more, and about transformation and evolutionary alchemy. Paulina's got a great word for that, when things seem daunting. Yes. So like Nicole was saying, focus on what's just in front of you and follow the nudges. You can have the big overarching picture, but if you try to like look towards what the next step is, as opposed to like leaping ahead 3 steps. Nina, can I share the hilarious thing that you said the other day? We were speaking into this on our voice chat, and she was going, man, it's just this ascension ladder and there's so many different steps, and I just get overwhelmed and I don't know which step to take first. I just started laughing because to me it's like, take the first step. That's the one that goes first, the one that's right in front of you. Take it first. She was like, I heard it right as soon as I said it. But that's what the mind can do. The mind can get us into overwhelm. Whereas if we focus on that first step, what's right in front of you, the path becomes clear. Okay. I love you ladies so much. This has been such a delightful conversation. And we will be back next week, time TBD. And just letting you know that there'll be some other really beautiful announcements and events coming up next week too. So you definitely want to tune in for that one, because I have a few beautiful conversations coming up, and we'll be giving details about the Soul Embodiment Summit for Conscious Creators, an amazing online retreat and summit that we are going to be hosting around the equinox. We'll have details for you on all of that next week. So if you are feeling like you just want to jump in tonight so you can get some intuitive movement, we left the links for the playground there so you can jump in and start getting into your body, becoming more intuitive, and playing with all of this. And only do that, though, if it's right in front of you and you're like, yes, you're feeling drawn to it, come and join us. So much fun. It's all a grand play and a grand experiment. And I love getting to do this with you both. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to share this with anybody that you feel like could use some of the amazing like mic drops and codes that came from the stories that came out today. And if you're on YouTube, just please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any one of these illuminating chats. So much love. We'll talk to you soon.